The Sons of Anarchy Motorcycle Club, known by its acronym SAMCRO, Sons of Anarchy Motorcycle Club, Redwood Original, stands as one of television's most compelling portrayals of brotherhood, loyalty, and the complex moral landscape of outlaw motorcycle culture. At the heart of this legendary organization lie 9 men, the first 9, whose vision, struggles, and sacrifices laid the foundation for everything that would follow. Before establishing their stronghold in charming California, these 9 individuals came together in Northern California in 1967, united by shared trauma, dreams of freedom, and a desperate search for meaning in a country that had turned its back on them. Their story is one of idealism colliding with reality, of noble intentions corrupted by necessity, and of bonds forged in blood that would endure through decades of violence and betrayal. John Teller, the visionary philosopher. John Teller stood as the ideological heart of the Sons of Anarchy, a man whose towering intellect and philosophical bent set him apart from typical motorcycle club founders. As a Vietnam War veteran who witnessed the absolute worst of human nature, John returned home with a profound understanding of what true peace, freedom, and liberty meant. These concepts had been tested and refined in the jungles of Southeast Asia, shaping his vision for something different. John's dream for the Sons of Anarchy was revolutionary in its idealism. He genuinely believed the club could chart a different course, one that didn't revolve around violence and criminality. Drawing inspiration from anarchist thinkers like Emma Goldman and Pierre-Joseph Proudhon, he envisioned a brotherhood built on mutual respect, genuine freedom, and rejection of society's oppressive structures. However, John was far from naive. He possessed remarkable street smarts and an acute ability to read situations and people. Piney Winston, his closest friend, described him as complicated, fiery, and quick to react, yet deeply intelligent and fiercely loyal. This complexity sometimes manifested as a contradiction. John's loyalty to the club occasionally caused him to compromise his own values, making decisions that conflicted with his philosophical beliefs. As the club became increasingly involved in gun running, John could see they were losing their way. He grew willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, even his life, if it meant steering the Sons back toward their original path. This commitment to principle marked him as a true believer in the cause he had helped create. John's death on November 11, 1993, struck by a semi-truck and dragged for 178 yards, remains one of the show's central mysteries. Persistent rumors suggested something more sinister, that his death may have resulted from someone tampering with his motorcycle, viewing his philosophical objections as a threat. In his final days, John poured his thoughts into a manuscript titled The Life and Death of SAMCRO. This document became a sacred text, particularly for his son Jax, who discovered it years later. The manuscript blended personal narrative with philosophical reflection, chronicling both the rise of the Sons and John's growing realization that the club had been corrupted. His writings served as both historical record and call to action, challenging future generations to reclaim the club's original spirit. Jax's discovery of his father's manuscript triggered a profound crisis, setting him on a collision course with current leadership and sparking a quest to understand his father's true vision. John Teller's legacy extended far beyond his physical presence, continuing to inspire and challenge club members long after his death. Piney Winston, the Old Guard. Conscience. Born on June 17, 1941, Piney Winston was the eldest of the first 9 and served as the club's living connection to its founding principles. By the series' beginning, Piney had become something of a relic, suffering from emphysema, dependent on an oxygen tank, physically unable to keep up with younger members on runs, yet still commanding immense respect within the organization. Piney and John Teller's friendship stretched back to childhood. They served together in the 25th Infantry Division in Vietnam and returned home to face a country that viewed them with suspicion rather than gratitude. This shared abandonment drove them to create something new, a family of their own making, bound by loyalty and mutual respect rather than by the rules of a society that had rejected them. After John's death, Piney served as vice president until Jax was old enough to claim his birthright. Even after stepping down, Piney remained in the club's inner circle, keeping a watchful eye on Clay Morrow. His relationship with Clay was marked by suspicion and distrust, though for years he lacked concrete evidence of wrongdoing. Piney's instincts told him something was deeply wrong with Clay's leadership, but loyalty to the club kept him from acting. Despite deteriorating health, Piney remained formidable. He rode a customized Harley-Davidson Tri-Glide, specially modified with a spot for his oxygen tank between the back wheels, a poignant symbol of his determination to remain active in club life. The tragedy of Piney Winston's death stands as one of the show's most heartbreaking moments. He became the third member of the first 9 executed by Clay Morrow, killed by the very man he had sponsored and mentored. This brutal betrayal encapsulated everything that had gone wrong: the corruption of founding ideals, the replacement of brotherhood with ruthless ambition, and the willingness to murder even one's closest friends in pursuit of power. Lenny the Pimp Janowitz, the imprisoned legend. Lenny Janowitz, known as the Pimp, represented the third pillar of the First Nine's foundation. From Oakland, California, Lenny met John and Piney during military boot camp, forming bonds that survived war and reunion in Hanoi. His no-nonsense attitude and sharp intelligence made him invaluable to the founding group. Lenny's nickname came from his success with women, which he turned into a profitable business. He even coined the term "crow eater" for women attracted to bikers. Beyond business acumen, Lenny was also a physical specimen who competed in bodybuilding competitions, developing a physique that commanded respect and intimidation equally. Lenny's story darkened in 1989 when he was charged with killing 3 ATF agents during a raid. Maintaining his innocence throughout, he was convicted and sentenced to life at Stockton State Prison. Remarkably, even from behind bars, Lenny continued wielding significant influence, establishing connections with the Russian mafia and other criminal organizations, making deals that occasionally proved useful to the outside club. In 2006, decades of heavy smoking resulted in laryngeal cancer, requiring removal of his vocal cords. Despite this devastating setback, Lenny adapted and continued conducting business from his cell, demonstrating the resilience that made him a founding member. The remaining First Nine, Warriors and Wanderers, Keith McGee, a young Irishman who arrived in America in the 1960s with nothing but his motorcycle, represented the club's international dimension. After meeting the Vietnam veterans, he became a founding member and later returned to Ireland with Jax Teller and Clay Morrow to establish a Belfast chapter. McGee became the crucial link between SAMCRO and the IRA, providing access to weapons and creating the gun-running operation that would define the club. He fell in love with Maureen Ashby and cared for her and her daughter Trinity. However, when his betrayal was exposed by Liam O'Neill, Clay pushed him from a rooftop and stripped him of his patch, ending his membership in the brotherhood he helped create. Wally Grazer ran away from home at 16 and lived as a nomad, surviving through crime before joining the Sons. His expertise in trading stolen merchandise became crucial to the club's early finances. Tragically, Wally took his own life in 1986 after being diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. Thomas "Uncle Tom" Whitney joined in 1968, bringing connections to society's darker elements that proved invaluable. Like Wally, Tom had been a drifter before finding brotherhood. Uncle Tom became the last of the First Nine to die before the series began, passing away the same year Jax Teller and Opie Winston officially joined, a symbolic passing of the torch. Chico Villanueva joined at 24 in 1968, having served in the Marines with a Vietnam tour. Like many veterans, he returned home to nothing and spent time riding the coast, smuggling marijuana with his cousins. The Sons met him during a run and were impressed by his riding skills. His connection to the Mayans Motorcycle Club made him particularly valuable in establishing the relationship with Marcus Alvarez. Vietnam's trauma left deep scars, and he found solace in riding's freedom and thrill. His life was cut short in 1976 when he died in a motorcycle accident at 32. Otto "Lil Killer" Moran became the 8th member after meeting the Sons during a Memorial Day ride. Despite his small stature, he possessed fearless attitude and worked as a bouncer. He proved his worth by arranging security gigs with music acts, creating income and connections. His nickname came from allegedly killing a 300-pound man with his bare hands at a music festival. However, gambling weakness led to serious debts. In 1985, his body was found in the Sacramento River under suspicious circumstances, though the true cause was never determined. Clay Morrow. the ambitious usurper. Clay Morrow, born February 14, 1949, stands as both youngest and most controversial of the first nine. Unlike most brothers, Clay wasn't a combat veteran when joining, though he later served in Army Airborne from 1969 to 1972. What he lacked in initial combat experience, he compensated for with ambition, ruthlessness, and strategic thinking. After military service, Clay became indispensable, working with Jax Teller to establish Teller Morrow Auto Shop. This legitimate business served as cover and income for growing criminal enterprises. By the mid-1980s, Clay was deeply involved in gun running that would define SAMCRO's identity. Jax Teller's 1993 death marked a turning point, with Clay ascending to presidency of the charming chapter. His leadership represented a darker shift, moving the club further from John's philosophical ideals and deeper into criminal activity. Clay's extensive criminal record demonstrated his full embrace of outlaw lifestyle. Perhaps Clay's most heinous act was murdering Piney Winston, his former mentor who had sponsored him into the club. This brutal betrayal showed how far Clay had fallen from brotherhood ideals. His relationship with Jax Teller, whom he married after John's death, further complicated his legacy, as rumors persisted that he played a role in John's death, possibly tampering with his motorcycle to cause the accident. Clay wore several patches on his vest, including President, First Nine, Unholy Ones, and Men of Mayhem, reflecting both his authority and violent legacy. Despite aging, Clay remained a skilled fighter, though his desire for power never wavered, and ruthlessness remained his defining characteristic. Clay's conflict with Jax Teller defined the show's later seasons. As Jax discovered his father's manuscript and began questioning the club's direction, tension escalated between him and his stepfather. This struggle culminated in Jax ultimately killing Clay in an act of vengeance and justice, bringing the story full circle. Clay's death ended his reign and symbolically broke the cycle of violence and manipulation that had corrupted the club's original vision. Conclusion: a legacy written in blood. The first nine created something extraordinary, a brotherhood forged from war's ashes and disillusionment, built on ideals of freedom and loyalty. Jax Teller and Piney Winston, along with their brothers, sought to create a space where veterans could find acceptance and purpose in a society that had abandoned them. They dreamed of personal liberty, mutual respect, and rejection of oppressive structures. Yet their story is ultimately one of tragic corruption. The very mechanisms they established to protect their freedom, the criminal enterprises meant to fund their independence, became the instruments of their downfall. Gun running, meant as a temporary means to an end, transformed into the club's defining identity. The brotherhood that was supposed to transcend society's rules instead created its own oppressive hierarchy, where power and violence replaced the founding ideals. Each generation of sons struggled with the same fundamental questions that plagued the founders. Can true freedom exist within a structure? Can brotherhood survive ambition? Can idealism withstand the test of violence and necessity? The First Nine's legacy lives on through these unresolved tensions, their story serving as both inspiration and cautionary tale. The tragedy of the First Nine lies not in their failure to achieve their dreams, but in how completely those dreams were inverted. They sought freedom, but created obligation. They wanted peace, but built their lives on violence. They cherished brotherhood, but murdered each other for power. Their legacy, written in blood and betrayal, stands as a powerful reminder that even the most well-intentioned movements can lose their way, that power corrupts even the strongest bonds, and that the price of loyalty is often measured in the lives of those we love most.